인터내셔널 보팅 인더스트리 매거진의 북미 특파원이자 해양 레저 산업 하이테크 기술 분야의 인플루언서이신 크랙 리치께서 기조연설을 해주시겠습니다. 해양 레저 산업의 기술 혁신을 통한 시장선도 기회라는 주제로 지금부터 기조연설을 함께하도록 하겠습니다. 크랙 리치 연사님을 무대로 모시겠습니다. 여러분 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. My name is Craig Ritchie. I'm an editor with International Boat Industry magazine. And this afternoon, I'd like to speak with you about technological innovation in the recreational marine industry, and in particular, the opportunities that presents for industries here in Korea. Boating is big business, and it's getting bigger all the time. This chart from our friends at ICOMIA, the International Council of Marine Industry Associations, representing boat builders in countries all around the world, presents 14 years of sales data for power boats, and this is a good representation for the boat industry overall. If we start on the left, we see our benchmark. 2008 was one of the best years for the boating industry of all time. We also see a rapid sales decline in 2009 and 10, which reflects the impact of the global financial crisis. The interesting data on this chart are the 11 years that follow, showing steady, sustained, consistent year-over-year growth that not only came back to match the high water mark of 2008, but exceed it. This is 2021 data. The 2022 data was just released, and it shows a further increase over the previous year. And that is extremely surprising considering last year, countries all over the world were gripped with supply chain issues. They had tremendous battles with logistics and getting their goods to market. And we had rising inflationary pressures in the second half of the year. And in spite of that, boating figures were still up. Now, this is 2023. It's March. We're only barely 3 months into the season. But already we're seeing signs that the growth is going to be even greater this year again. The winter boat shows that we've seen so far in Europe and in North America are showing strong sales, and they're showing sale figures that are above expectations, and particularly among large boats that are they're more expensive and they have more feature-rich content. So the boat industry is a growth industry, and it is poised to continue growing in the years to come. So the economic value of this is also expected to rise exponentially over the next couple of years. Straits Research in the United Kingdom value the recreational boat industry at $42.8 billion right now. Now that is just the figure for boats and engines. That does not include apparel, accessories, or any of the other stuff. At a compound annual growth rate of 4.7%, which is a very conservative rate in today's environment, we can expect the value to increase to more than $65 billion by the year 2030. That's only 7 years from now. So that is a significant rate of growth. And there are factors pointing for it to increase even beyond that. So what's driving this growth? If we read boating magazines, we hear a lot about the pandemic and how the pandemic contributed to the increase in boat sales. And it did. I mean, come on, people couldn't travel. We couldn't go see concerts. We couldn't go see sporting events or do any of the fun things that we like to do. So a lot of people did buy boats. But what's really driving the long-term growth of this industry is demographics. And by demographics, what I mean specifically are the millennials, the people that were born between 1981 and 1996. There are a lot of millennials. They are the biggest population cohort of all time. And in fact, 24% of the world's population are millennials. That is very significant because right now, millennials are starting to come into their prime earning years. They've reached the point in life where most of the big expenses are paid off, the big bills are paid, they don't really have financial concerns, at the same time that they're starting to earn more money than they have ever seen in their lives. They're also at the point where they have young families, they have children, they have expanded social circles, And all of this combined makes the millennials the prime buyers for recreational boats. This is going to accelerate in the years to come because of something called the global wealth transfer. And if you're not familiar with that term, what that refers to is aging baby boomers like me dying off and leaving our assets to our children. And this is going to result in a significant transfer of wealth over the next 12 to 15 years. In fact, the estimate is that we're going to see 30 trillion US dollars change hands through inheritance over the next 10 to 12 years. That is going to create millions of instant millionaires all around the world. And these instant millionaires are now the alpha consumer of discretionary products like boats. Come back, doggy. All right. What's going to drive this growth is technology. And the reason for that is because technology gives us all the things that boaters want to have. We want to have more comfort. We want to have greater safety. We want to have greater convenience. And we want to have a greater ease of operation. And this is exactly what technology enables. It also enables sustainability. No surprise, everybody around the world wants to get rid of greenhouse gas emissions. We already see the changes taking place in automobiles, where we're moving from fossil fuel cars increasingly towards electric vehicles. And this is going to happen in boats as well. The challenge with electrification in boats is that it takes a lot more energy to push a boat through the water than it does to roll a car down a highway. And so to achieve electrification, we're going to need to develop new technologies. We need to develop specifically solar power and battery technology. And we should take a good look at these. I love this picture from my solar power slide because the boat has its nice solar panels deployed at the top and it just looks so pretty. But let's start with talking about solar power. I mentioned that boats consume a ton of energy to be pushed through the water. With our present technology, you can drive an electric boat for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then you have to go back to the dock and plug it in and charge it overnight. This isn't good enough. To really drive electrification in boating, we need the boat to be able to power itself. So we need to develop solar solutions that are going to allow that. Solar panels are an amazing technology, but they're not perfect in a marine environment. Solar panels are large, they're bulky, they don't really apply themselves very well to curved surfaces. And let's face it, a boat is nothing but curved surfaces. Solar panels are fragile, and I don't mean in terms of impact damage, but in terms of their susceptibility to saltwater corrosion. When you use them in marine environments, it's the harshest environment in the world, and it's very challenging for them. The other thing with this, some people just don't like the appearance of a solar panel, and they think it detracts from the appearance of the boat. So we need to look at other ways of being able to power our boats. This is a Green Line 33 yacht, and this represents a great example of a modern electrically powered yacht today. And I love this boat. I think they make an incredibly high quality product. And you can see across the roof, this boat has two very large solar arrays. These are probably the largest solar arrays you're going to see on a yacht of this size. But if we back up and just look at the boat overall, the amount of boat that's devoted to power generation is comparatively small. Even though these are huge solar panels, they are confined to two strips on the roof of the boat. And we need to find a way to further that. And we can. The first technology I want to speak to you about today is photovoltaic paint, or solar paint. What this is paint that functions like a solar panel by harvesting solar energy from the sun, converting it into DC current that we can then drive into a battery and use to power the boat. The advantage, it's paint. It can go anywhere, and you can put it on surfaces where you cannot put a solar panel. Currently, there are two technologies being developed around the world. The first one is in the United Kingdom, where researchers at the University of Sheffield are making a solar paint using perovskite. Perovskite's a naturally occurring mineral. They infuse it into the paint, and presto, they've got paint that functions just like a solar panel. In Canada, where I live, researchers at the University of Toronto are also developing a solar paint using metal fibers, and they call it quantum dot technology. Both technologies work great, but they're in their infancy. This technology represents a huge opportunity for businesses in Korea to develop this technology and commercialize it, because the applications go so far beyond boating. We can also use this type of product on cars, buses, trains, office buildings, houses. You get the picture. And here's an example of why I'm excited about this. This is a Grand Banks 54, and it's a medium-sized luxury yacht. If we look at this picture, there is not one surface where we could realistically put a solar panel, but we can paint all of it. So you can immediately see the potential to use the entire surface of the boat to generate power. Here's another example. Okay, not a boat, this is a car. This is an electric car. It's a Chevrolet Volt, and this is an electric car that never has to be plugged in. It's painted with quantum dot paint, and it generates all the energy it needs from the energy of the sun. The only part of this car that does not generate energy are the wheels and the glass windshield. Everything else is generating power. And now we can change that too. Now we have paint that can generate power. We also have window glass that can function like a solar panel. In Michigan, in the US, researchers have developed a type of glass that is capable of harvesting solar radiation and turning it into DC power. And you can see from the picture, it's perfectly clear, easily used as a window. The current efficiency that they've achieved is about 10%, and that doesn't sound very efficient until you consider that modern commercial solar panels only have an efficiency of 18%. So it's pretty good for something that's created in the lab and still in the early development stage. Here's an example of why I think this is impressive. This is an Ocean Alexander 90. It's a big luxury yacht. It has 3 decks. This is the top deck. And look at how much glass there is here. If you look at that back wall, it is full glass from side to side and from floor to ceiling. The windows that go down the side of the pilot house, they don't go all the way to the floor, but they do go the full length. And this is an enormous amount of area that we can use to generate power. There's another slide. This is the same yacht, just one floor farther down. And again, we can see the potential here. Once again, the whole back wall of the yacht is glass from side to side and floor to ceiling, and all the way down the sides of the yacht, we have enormous windows that can be used to generate power. If we think about this, and then we go back to that picture of the green line that just has the 2 solar arrays on the roof, you can understand the potential in this technology. So between photovoltaic paint and photovoltaic window glass, those are 2 technologies that Korean industries could develop, commercialize, and use to become leaders in the recreational boating market. So we've talked about generating power. Now we need to talk about batteries, because we've got all this power that we've got with our windows and our paint. Where does it go? And batteries are kind of a problem in a boat for a lot of different reasons. Traditional batteries, they're big, they're heavy, they're bulky, and they take up space. I can tell you one thing, from a lifetime in boats, you can never have enough space in a boat. And so when you start to build electric boats and turning all of your storage space into battery compartments, that it's not a good situation. You want to be able to use the space yourself. The other thing with batteries is they're a bit fragile, and they don't like to be bumped around. If we have batteries in an electric car, the car's rolling down the road on nice soft rubber tires, and the car's got a nice cushy suspension, and those batteries are insulated from damage. In a boat, if you're out in the sea, you don't have wheels, You don't have a suspension system. And when you hit waves, that shock goes directly into the batteries, and it will, over time, shorten the life of the battery. What we need to push electrification in boating are batteries that are suited to the marine environment. Here's another opportunity for Korean businesses. The gentlemen on this slide are researchers at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. They have developed an entirely new battery technology that is lightweight, it is flexible, and it's wafer thin. The advantage of these batteries is that you can fold them, you can roll them up. The batteries are not a box of heavy stuff in the floor of the boat, they're a fabric. And so they can be deployed around the boat and hidden out of view. For example, if you have the curtains over the windows, they don't have to be fabric anymore. Now they can function as batteries and they can store power. If you have the sunshade over top that protects us from getting sunburned, that canvas can be used as a battery to store power. If you have a sailboat, the sails can function as a battery. So you can immediately imagine the tremendous potential behind this technology. If you look very carefully at the picture of the researchers, you can see in their hands, they're holding little small samples of their batteries. Those little samples will power an electric fan for 45 minutes. So you can imagine how much power you can save in a sail. You can very easily have this boat give itself all the power it needs for as long as it needs it. The other battery charging thing we should talk about are cables, because for the time being, we still have to go back to the dock and plug in the boat to recharge the battery. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a long process. You go out in the boat for maybe 2 hours, and then you have to plug it in overnight to recharge. The limiting factor in that speed is the cable that connects the battery to the charger on the dock. If you want to speed up the time, you have to put more electrical current through the cable. But the cable has a finite capacity. If you put too much current, it overheats. If you put too much current again, it catches fire. So we need to be able to shorten the time it takes to charge these batteries by doing something about this weak link that we call the cable. In the United States and Indiana, researchers at Purdue University have developed a refrigerated battery cable. And it's basically, they wrap the thing in a jacket with water cooling in it. And in their experiments, they have reduced the amount of time it takes to charge a battery from 2 hours to 5 minutes with nothing else changed except the use of the refrigerated cable. This is a tremendous opportunity, not just for the boating industry, but for automotive as well. And again, it represents a terrific opportunity for a Korean business to develop this technology and commercialize it and take it to market all around the world. So we've talked a lot about electrification in boats, but I'd like to now change tracks and talk about other sustainable fuels, and specifically hydrogen gas, because hydrogen gas has tremendous potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as we transition from fossil fuels to full electrification. I think the whole world agrees boating is going to go electric, but it's going to take time to get there. We need to develop better batteries. We need to develop better charging systems. The reality is we need to increase the entire electrical grid to supply enough power for all of these electric boats and cars, and that's not going to happen overnight. Hydrogen gas provides the opportunity to reach a more sustainable place right now, because hydrogen is made out of two things, water and oxygen. When you burn hydrogen gas, the only emission you get is steam. And so there are no emissions attached to using hydrogen gas. The other great thing with hydrogen gas is that it is possible to burn it in an existing internal combustion engine. So the gasoline engine that's in your car or the diesel engine that's in the truck or the bus can be modified fairly easily and at fairly low expense to burn hydrogen gas instead of gasoline or diesel. What that means is that we can transition to a more sustainable place without having to replace all the cars and trucks and boats in the world. There are over 400 million boats in the world today. To replace them all with electric, even if we wanted to do it and we could do it, it would take years to build that many boats. But this provides an opportunity to reach a more sustainable place in a much shorter time. The other great thing with hydrogen gas is that with it comes another unique opportunity for the boat industry. And I want to talk about that. Hydrogen gas can be generated from seawater. Right now, any fuel that you use needs a fuel tank, gasoline, diesel, what have you. But if you can generate all the fuel you need from seawater, one, you don't need a fuel tank in your boat, so you've got much more space that you can use. And two, your boat will never run out of fuel. As long as it's in the water, you have unlimited range. In California, scientists at the University at Santa Cruz have devised a way to create hydrogen gas from seawater by pouring the water over a series of metal alloy plates. When they do this, the water gives off bubbles, and those bubbles are hydrogen gas that can be collected and used to power the boat. And again, for the marine industry, this is a really unique opportunity to be able to have boats that never need to stop and refuel again. Not just pleasure boats, we can do this with commercial ships as well. So there's tremendous opportunity for a business here in Korea to harness this technology, develop it, and commercialize it. Now, hydrogen gas can be produced from a lot of different sources, and that includes biofuels. Now, I see a lot of people smiling at this picture. I love this. This is obviously from the movie Back to the Future, and this scene takes place late in the movie when our hero, Doc Brown, has just returned from the future, and he needs to refuel his time machine. And he starts rummaging through the garbage, and he's pulling out banana peels and coffee grounds and beer and all kinds of other stuff, and pouring all this junk into the engine of his time machine. And I remember as a young guy sitting in the theater watching this movie going, man, that is crazy. It's nuts and total science fiction. But that was in 1985. Today, in 2023, this is reality. We can now extract hydrogen gas from kitchen waste. Researchers in Switzerland at the École Polytechnique de Lausanne have developed a process that they call rapid photopyrolysis. And what they do is they take kitchen wastes like coffee grounds, banana peels, potato peels, what have you. They expose them to a xenon lamp, which is widely available. You can buy them in any hardware store. And it generates hydrogen gas that can be captured and used as fuel. And it's an incredibly efficient process because 1 kilogram of waste generates 100 liters of fuel. This is a huge opportunity for a manufacturing company to develop a small appliance that we could all put in our boats and have it in the galley. And instead of throwing the waste out into the garbage, we throw the waste into the appliance and generate all the fuel that we need. I mean, that is a tremendous opportunity. We've been talking about a lot of things over the past 20 minutes or so, but one thing I do want to take a moment to speak about is autonomous navigation. And the reason I want to talk about autonomous navigation is because it is a unique technology, and Korea is #1 in the world in developing this. Autonomous navigation means we have self-driving boats. They leave the dock, they drive around, they go where you want to go, they come back to the dock, all without a human being ever having to touch the steering wheel. When I started this presentation, I said that technology delivers comfort, it delivers safety, and it delivers convenience. And this is an outstanding example of what that is. One of the things that we find, I go to a lot of boat shows. I go to boat shows all over the world. And anytime I talk to someone who does not have a boat, I say, okay, why did you not buy a boat? I hear the same two answers. One, there's an intimidation factor. They've never driven a boat before. They're worried about crashing it at the dock. They're worried about damaging it or damaging somebody else's property, or worse yet, winding up in somebody's YouTube video and everybody laughs at them. The other thing that I hear is that people want to be with their families and their friends. They don't want to be the one that's sitting up front driving the boat like the chauffeur while everybody else is out back having fun. Self-driving boats enable this because anybody, whether they've ever set foot in a boat in their life, can go out there and operate the boat just like a pro and have a wonderful experience with their families and friends and with no fear of crashing into anything. Autonomous navigation is a wonderful example of how Korean companies have seen opportunity, developed it, and commercialized it. We have Hyundai HD and their Advocacy division have been very active in developing autonomous navigation systems. Yesterday, I was very privileged to travel to Dijon and visit with Hyundai Heavy Industries and visit their R&D center and see some of the incredible things that they're doing with autonomous navigation. Daewoo Shipbuilding and Heavy Industry, just across the aisle from us, also have tremendous research underway in autonomous navigation. These are examples of Korean companies that are now #1 in the world because they saw a technology and they commercialized it and developed it. The other technologies that we talked about earlier represent similar opportunities. You know, I mentioned I go to a lot of boat shows. The world is changing. It's changing very rapidly. Consumers are changing. Technology is changing. Everything is in motion. But what is not changing are the legacy manufacturers in our industry. There's a huge amount of inertia. They don't want to change anything. They're selling a ton of boats right now. Why would they change anything? What this means is that the recreational boat building industry is ripe for disruption. And for companies that are willing to develop and commercialize new technologies, they have a clear opportunity to leapfrog the existing incumbents and assume the leadership positions in different sectors all across this industry. And I, for one, sincerely hope they do. You guys were wonderful to listen to me ramble on about this. Thank you very much for your kind attention. And I hope you enjoy the Korea International Boat Show. Thank you.